Also, as the last couple of meetings that we haven't had a chance to really discuss it, but I informed the board that we received a letter, members of us that were on the, I guess we'll call it the Transportation Subcommittee, the bus committee. We received a letter that they decided to suspend it, or, well, they said suspend it. The then chairman of the committee had contacted me this weekend, or last week, and thought that he owed it, or the least he could do was to hear the issues that we had worked on and the things that we had. And while I appreciate that, I realize that, time is wasting every day that goes by. And one of the things that we had looked at was, or one of the things that we had discussed, one of the initial things was to find out, could it be more cost effective to go out to bid? As we know, it's over $1.4 million that the town side contributes above and beyond minimum net spending that's required by law, let alone any in-kind things, but $1.4 million that we contribute so that they can operate the buses. There have been a lot of issues with the buses. There's been a lot of concerns. And unfortunately, I feel that that committee, we didn't finish what we started. We didn't find out, is it cheaper in-house or out? And after that happened, and I had been working on a lot of stuff, someone had approached me to give me a TAS, Student Transportation Efficiency Study from 1998. When we first started, we had asked for any studies that they had. And I'm trying to be very positive about this. I'm a little miffed, though, because this is essentially all the stuff and the research that I had been working on for a couple of months. And then this gets handed to me, and come to find out, people had this all along. And it wasn't shared with a committee that was supposed to be looking at this stuff. With that, they also handed me a legal opinion from Copeland and Page dated October 7th, 2003. And it was written to Mr. Hartman, which you all know that Mr. Hartman and I really saw eye to eye on anything, but it was written to Mr. Hartman, and it was asking if the town administrator may contract for school transportation services for the town, rather than have the town provide for such services. There is 4 pages, case law cited, based on my opinion, that the town meeting does have the authority. There was a gentleman in the spring who was asking for the non-net school spending to be put under the town administrator, and it says that the town meeting does have that authority, and that the town administrator, pursuant to the applicable provisions of the charter, rather than the school committee, to contract for such services. I'm not saying, and I don't want to alarm any of the employees there or anything. What I'm saying is that we need to get, and as Chairman Donahue said on our very first meeting, we need to compare apples to apples. We may go out and find that 1.4 million is laughable, in that everyone's charging us 2 million. We might find out that everyone's charging us 1 million. But right now, we're charging 1.4, and we have buses that every time we turn around, we're pretty much told, well, if you just buy us new buses, everything will be okay. We have over 50 buses. If we're even going to do a 7-year plan, which is, from my understanding, optimum, they don't want to run anything over 10 years, so if you figure you do a 7-year plan, we're having to buy 7 new buses every year. We're not doing that. So there is no capital plan for this. There is no planning for the future. And so I think that using the numbers that that we've been working on in the committee, or that we've been working on trying to present to the committee, as far as what would be a true cost of it with a capital plan in place, and then go out to bid and find out what that is. And Mr. Andrews had presented to the committee the idea of reverse auction, is that what it's called? Okay. And what that is that we put it out with the specs, exactly what we want. It goes out there. People essentially, or companies, bid against each other for the services. We can accept one or none of them, but I think it'll give us a bellwether as to where we are, where we stand, because, and I know that there are also different things we can do it with. We can keep the employees, or we can make options that we could keep the employees as town employees and just contract out for the equipment and stuff. We could rent out the garage to the thing. There's just a lot of different things, and I think that we're looking at it, this way or that way, and there's no gray area. And according to this TAS report, there's an entire matrix that they show you all the different things, which, we've been working on. So I would like to share this with you, and if the board would be so inclined, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the town administrator to put in a reverse auction regarding the school buses. And I know that we have a few people that, in my opinion, are experts on the miles that the town buses are used, the condition and things like that, that can probably assist you with getting that. But, okay, that's beside. So my motion is to authorize the town administrator to put out a reverse auction on the buses so we can get an idea of what we're doing.
A second for discussion, Mr. Holmes.
Second for discussion. Madam Chair, we look at our budget, and one point I think it's almost closer to...
Can I? I'm going to recuse myself from this because we are talking about. We're going to get into a discussion about the buses, and I work for AFSCME, who represents the employees, so I'm just going to step out.
Thank you, Mrs. Winslow.
Okay. Okay now?
Yes, please.
We contribute out of our budget, I think it's 1.4, I'll use that number because it's been used, I think it's a little higher than that.
Mm-hmm.
And it baffles me that with all the budget issues we've had over the last 10 years in this town, that we're still relying on a study from 1998. We heard from Mr. Cruz last week, who I kind of consider Walter an expert in the construction industry, and we were talking about other types of projects. And now is the time to go out to these companies and try to get them to bid on these projects. If anybody hasn't noticed, the economy is got some issues. And yet we rely on a study from 1998. Now, if the schools aren't interested in the study, and if they're not interested in the plan, then I think as the Board of Selectmen, who are responsible for the town side of this budget, $1.5 million, that we contribute to that fund. And if there's a way that we can cut some of that money over a period of time, that could be some additional maintenance workers that we talked about earlier, to keep Mr. Slavin was here talking about beautification. We have a letter from the Historic Commission about getting some buildings painted. There are many services that we've cut in this town. And to sit here and tell me that we have to keep spending 1.4, next should be 1.5, 1.6, nobody's looked at any of that since 1998. So, so first of all, I agree that we need to look at that. And second of all, I'd like to see the auction set up for a full menu of management,